So it's 4 days
Yeah.
before the operation. How do you feel?
Do you know, David, I'm excited and nervous is what I feel at the moment. I'm excited because I've pushed for this operation for such a long time. I really have fought far hard for it. But now I've got to the point of it being literally a few days away. I can't help thinking about what's actually going to happen to me.
Give me some examples of the kind of thoughts that have been going through your head.
Well, the thoughts that go through my head are that, there's a lot of expensive equipment in my head. That's one thing I think about. And making sure it's protected. You can't go scuba diving and you can't go through electronic scanners, at shops or anything that magnetic can switch it off. So it's quite a responsibility.
What about the microwave in the kitchen?
I don't think I'll be all right. It would be odd, wouldn't it, suddenly if I turn myself off. But so that's one thing I think about, is all this equipment. The other thing I think about is the commitment I'm kind of making, which is, it's not just an operation, DBS. It's a lifetime of servicing this machine that's in your head, and it constantly needs reprogramming and re-looking at it. So there's a whole relationship I'm going to enter into with somebody who's going to program me at the hospital. So there's that, and also this kind of very strange thought about something in my brain which is not me and can be controlled by somebody else. I found very sort of, I sit here a lot by myself and I think a lot of things, and I think my brain is something that I know very well. I know its foibles. I kind of quite like it for all of its madnesses, and I can be a very mad place at times. And I know how mad it can be. But I'm used to this kind of head. Somehow, it served me relatively well up until now. And suddenly it's being opened up to somebody else who's literally able to program not only the movement, so they can connect through to the circuits and change the movement circuits. But as you change the movement circuits are very near mood and emotion circuits, and those will probably change as well. So giving somebody the ability to literally sit in front of me with an iPad and program me is a very strange concept and a very sort of trusting concept. It's much more personal, I think, even than an analyst, I think. Because as they begin to program you, they've got the ability to program your emotions.
So when you sit there and it will be happening to you and this program will be working with you, you're going to have a say over this, presumably, and you'll be able to know what you're feeling.
Myself and others, I think they call it others. I'm not always the very best judge of whether I'm behaving rationally or normally or not. Sometimes I'm quite manic, and I think that's quite normal. So I think other people will be looking out for that. But some of the effects that are well known in terms of personality change are hypersexuality. Scott and I have been joking about this, saying, well, we can keep that bit. We don't need to reprogram that. We'll keep that bit in there. And not that I'm not hypersexual already, quite frankly. But you can imagine for some 70-year-old ladies who have their husbands completely come back sexualized, it's a bit of a shock to them, and they want that bit switched off. The fact that I'll have something that feels like dopamine in my system all the time means that you feel relatively, potentially, much more content than I've been for a long period of time. One of the things I get an awful lot is anxiety. I get terribly anxious, particularly when there's no dopamine in me. It makes you feel anxious because the whole process is just sort of closing down, which is very jumpy and very nervous. So I've lived a lot of my life feeling very anxious, and of course that's to some extent is me, but to some large extent it's the dopamine or the no dopamine in my system. So it's a chemical thing. So
and that's got worse, presumably.
It's got much worse. So every time I now finish 3 hours, I get quite sort of jumpy and quite anxious, and I'm kind of notice that I tell myself it's chemical. It's nothing for you to worry about, but you feel all the effects. You feel your heart's in your mouth, and you feel like that. So this is what I've been asking myself. What actually is my real personality? And if all these years I've been leading something that's been influenced by no dopamine in my brain, and I'm sort of anxious and obsessive, which is the way that you get. What will I be like once I've got this new circuitry in me, and how will that work? One of the things they say is it gives you a deep appreciation of music. So you feel music in a way that you haven't before. And music's very important to me. It's very central in my life, and I love music. And I got a funny feeling it must be a little bit like taking a gummy bear or smoking pot or something before you go and before you hear some music. And So a lot of people say that they experience music in a different way. So that I'm looking forward to.
In a good way, though.
In a good way, yes, yeah. Creativity is another interesting one. Professor Ludwig Zrinzo said to me, he said, "Are you creative?" And I said, "Well, I like to think I am. I used to like to paint, and I think creatively, and I think, very often I interpret the world from my own point of view, which is, I think of a little bit of an artist somehow. It's a sensitive point of view." And he said, that's one of the things that we will try and preserve, because one of the things that DBS does is it makes you very, it's hard to describe because I haven't experienced it yet, but I just read about it. It makes you very, very blunt, I think is the word. And you lose this sort of rather softer creative side. So one of the things you lose is a filter. You can be very, very blunt and very straightforward, a little bit like having Asperger's, you're much more sort of basic and less sophisticated. So I'm interested to see whether my creative side remains or whether I can access it or not.
So some of us have known you as an artist, for a painter, for a few years, and you've stopped doing that in recent times.
Because I can't use my hands anymore.
But will you be able to potentially go back to that? Then?
Yes. See, motor things will work. So that's one thing that DBS will do. The reason I'm having DBS is because I'm just desperate, actually, David. I'm just desperate at the moment because I can't live life anymore like this. I can't move at the moment. So I get terrible stiffness, terrible slowness of movement, and terrible freezing. And it's affecting all sorts of things now. It's affecting my swallowing, it's affecting my breathing, and it's affecting everything I do. This will take me right back to the point when I still had movement. So this new circuitry will mean that my hands will be fluid, my thoughts will be fluid, my voice will be fluid, and I can become myself a little bit easier, or express myself a little bit easier, and that I'm looking forward to. It's very hard sometimes to express who you are with Parkinson's, particularly if you're in an off period. I'm just recently taken a pill recently, so I'm reasonably fluid at the moment. But you see me when I get very, very closed up and very stuck and can't talk very well. It's frustrating.
How do you keep not diving down that deep, dark hole of anxiety and potentially depression?
I don't always manage it very successfully. I have felt terribly depressed here. Before I had the David operation, and I got daily worse and worse, and I was just stuck in the flat with no David operation. I was very depressed, and I did kind of think to myself, is it worth? What's the point of trying to get all this movement for what? I'm just sitting in the flat. No, I'm not doing anything. So what this operation has done is it's offered me hope. And that's the biggest thing that I need at the moment, which is hope that I can rebuild my life to the point that I can get out, that I can meet people, that I can enjoy myself, that I can easily go to the theatre, that I can travel, that I can do all the things that I want to do for a period of time. I'm well aware that this is not a cure, and underneath all of that, my brain will continue to disintegrate, and Parkinson's will continue to have its merry way with me. I'm aware of that, but what it will do is cover that up, and I'll be able to manage the symptoms in a way that I've not been able to manage them with oral medication. So I'll have a much smoother ride throughout the day.
But you're not the kind of person who's just going to sit around waiting for that to happen. If you've got the opportunity.
No, I exactly. Even in this state, I push myself as far as I can to do things. Because I can't paint anymore. I do other things like making this video channel has been an important thing for me to do. Keeps me occupied and keeps me thinking and keeps me focused on something to make a mark. Something to otherwise. Parkinson's is a strange thing. Parkinson's literally takes your voice away. That's what the illness does. And it literally depletes you of personality, and it literally makes you sort of frozen and not human, just a frozen thing that can't connect. And that's what I'm determined, as long as I can, not to be.
What are the keenest hopes that you've got that might be fulfilled by the operation?
Keenest hopes. One thing, movement, obviously, natural fluid movement, and having it all the time. That's the big thing. What I have at the moment is I have movement, but every time I take a pill, the pill doesn't last and it wears off. But the best I am on medication will be the set point that I remain at throughout the day and night. And that's important to me. Night times are just a nightmare at the moment. Parkinson's robs me of sleep, and I just lie there frozen in bed, unable to move, and it's frightening, and it's being, you feel completely, you're just trapped in your own body. It's a horrible feeling until you take the first pill in the morning.
It must be exhausting as well.
Do you know, every day, David, is a battle. It really feels like a battle. Everything that you do when you get to this level of advanced Parkinson's, you've got to think about whether it's walking across the room or make a cup of tea. And very often you think, oh, I haven't got the energy to do any of it now. I just sit in this chair and that's all I can do. And, you know, that's not me. I've got too much I've still got too much will to be part of life. And that's the big thing it will give me, with the ability to be part of life. So sleep and all these things are going to be helpful, but at the end of the day, it allows me to enter life again.
So is the post-op bucket list getting longer then?
Yes, one of the things I'm going to do on the post-op bucket list, I've decided I'm going to do a world tour and see, and I'm going to buy a fucking first-class ticket, you know, because God knows, we'll spend the money now. And I'm going to go and see all the friends I've got right the way around the world. I've got friends in Sydney, I've got friends in Los Angeles, I've got friends in South Africa, I've got friends in Israel. I've got many, many friends I want to see, and many people I love who I don't necessarily spend a lot of time with. So the last few years has been literally me sitting here alone in the flat throughout COVID, and as this illness has taken its effect on my movement. So that's my bucket list, which is go out, meet friends, and connect with all these people who around the world.